Hi, thanks Mimi for coming to visit the Miller Dahlia Gardens this morning. And as you can see from the panorama that you just took, I have a lot of dahlias. I have over 1,200 dahlias and more than 300 varieties. And you're looking right now at the waterlily dahlia, which is one of the 20-some forms of dahlias. It has a very flat flower like a waterlily flower and comes in a wide array of colors. But they all have that same form in common of the flattened flower. You can see they all have their own names. This is My Forever, a relatively new variety of water lily dahlias. And if Mimi will pan down the bed with the water lily dahlias in, you'll see they come in a wide array of colors. The shapes are all pretty much the same, however. Some are very delicate, some of them are a little more dense, but all the colors are very intense. That particular dahlia is Black Widow. As I said, they all have names. And like 007, they all have numbers too. In the American Dahlia Society handbook, they each would have their own number. That's Taratahai Ruby. Behind it is Wildwood Marie, the pink one. The orange one you're coming into focus now is Teddy. And some of the names are quite fun, and they're usually named after the originator's children or a relative or friend. And you can see the colors just go on and on and on. What you're looking at now are giants and large dahlias in various forms, but mostly decoratives. And the big purple dahlia under that red and white umbrella is called My Hero. It's a relatively new variety of dahlias from Swan Island out in the Pacific Northwest, one of the biggest dahlia growers in the nation. But if you look closely, you can see various dahlias in various stages of development. And as Mimi walks down the aisle here, we'll start seeing that there are other colors of dahlias and shapes. And you see orange and pink and lavender. And you'll see ones that curve back on their stem and some that are more cactusy as we walk along. As you can see, this is called a recurved form of dahlia. It's Vasiomegos is the name. It's one of a variety of Megos type dahlias. You see how the petals recurve all the way back to the stem. But when you look at the front, you can see it's very, very formal. And as we move on, right next to it, see a different color. This one doesn't recurve at all, see? No recurve, but it doesn't make it any less beautiful. This one recurves back to the stem, but it's sort of spiky. And this is an informal decorative, not quite as formal as the others. That has the unusual name of ACZ. And you may have picked up on the umbrellas. I show dahlias as well as grow them to sell as cut flowers or tubers. So we have shows, and in the shows we want to put our best foot forward and show our best dahlias. And the red and burgundy dahlias tend to fade in the sunlight. Thus, we put the umbrellas over them to keep them from fading, and we get a better dahlia for this show. There's another informal decorative, sort of a pink. This is Elsie Houston. And the giants and large dahlias can be from 8 inches and bigger. And you see they come with some variegation, some two-tone dahlias and lavender dahlias. This is a very small one. It's supposed to be bigger than that, but I've never been able to grow it any bigger than that. And you're coming up on a big flower, as you can see. That's Penn Hill watermelon. Now it's a little past its prime, but you can see That's over 11 inches in diameter and quite beautiful. And when it's prime, it is sort of watermelon-y color. Thus, it got that name. These are all pastel colors, and I like to arrange them so they're complementary to each other color-wise. And we have more lavender. And when you get past this one, you'll be able to see this other big pink, yellow, orange blend. A little better view of it. That's informal decorations, not as neat shaped as the ones you saw prior to this. These are more of the large dahlias and a giant next to it. It's Emery Paul. You can see Emery Paul is even bigger than that other one. That's about 12 inches or more. But we have Spartacus here, the dark burgundy one, and this is called Harvey Coupe. As you can see, Harvey is very variegated and a highly prized dahlia for that reason. But oddly, Harvey Coupe was a sport. In other words, it came from Spartacus, as did Vasiomegas. That lavender one we looked at recurved back. You see, they all recurve back to the stem. And these all originated with Spartacus, the dark burgundy one. So here we have some more giant dahlias. The striking fluorescent one here is called Bella Barmera. And this lavender one is called Penn's Gift. This was originated in 1950 by a gentleman by the name of Stanley Johnson, who was a giant in the dahlia world and in dahlia history. He developed that. He's from Jenkintown, actually, and he developed that Penn's Gift, and it's still growing today. The other pink is Mingus Kaolin. And behind it, if Mimi will pan to her left, you see more giants and larges, and even some lower border dahlias. And these were placed just for looks, so it's one of the first things you see when you come to our dahlia garden. And when they're at their peak like this, they're very impressive, if I don't mind saying so myself. You may also notice the reinforcing bars, 1/2 inch by about 6 feet, is an ideal stake for the dahlias. It'll support the plant even in the wind. You get something less than that. Bamboo stakes are fine, but they have to be pretty big because they'll blow over otherwise, and dahlias need support. That is one thing that they almost in common with every grower. They have to support the dahlias in some manner. And once Mimi gets around, you'll see that some of them have like a link stake, almost like a peony ring. And you can see the link stakes on the Kid Climax, another form of supporting dahlias. These are very short, so we don't need a big tall stick to support them. A form of support is a peony ring, a common peony ring, and particularly for the border dahlias, they work just fine. And even for some of the bigger dahlias, actually the water lilies are all supported by a larger peony ring. You're looking at Spartacus. We've mentioned them earlier, and a very striking recurving dark burgundy bloom, large. 6-8 inches is not uncommon. And once again, you can see I need a pretty hefty, even a rebar, I need a pretty hefty stake to support them. This year has been a horrible year for growing dahlias with the heat and the dryness, so they aren't as tall as they normally would be. However, the blooms are of a good quality, and I can't complain about that. Now we're looking at giants and large dahlias again, but these are in the hot colors, whereas we saw some large ones before. They're in pastel colors. These are the oranges, the reds, the yellows, and you'll see some of these are rather spiky. And these are another form of dahlias, semi-cactus. There's a mixture of formal decorative type dahlias as well as the cactus or semi-cactus forms. So we'll just look at them and you'll see all the colors they come in. You might notice this is a different system of supporting the dahlias. It's just simple stakes with concrete wire laid on top of some small bars to support everything. And the dahlias grow up through it. Don't have to tie them up. They just go right through it and they support themselves. Yet another form of supporting dahlias. And these rows that you'll be seeing are very straight and they lend themselves to these rectangular shapes of the wire and the stakes and support the dahlias well. Still in the same giant and large bed of hot colored dahlias. These are semi-cactus form. That is AC Big Johnson. Now, as you get later in the summer, sometimes the flowers get a little smaller. This year, we never really had a really good spring, so I don't know if they ever got big. But this year, they're certainly plentiful, and they're blooming nicely, and they have good form. These are giant dahlia again called Zorro with Louis Magos in the background. Louis Magos is another sport of Spartacus, only it's a white one. And none of them are particularly mature, so they aren't recurving a lot yet. But the Zorro will get very big, bigger than this, many of them earlier in the season, but we're losing some size now. And that's Zorro. Yeah, the umbrellas don't lend themselves to taking good photographs, but we just got to keep them on there to keep the dahlias nice dark burgundy.